Ah, thought I'd see you here. Anyone traveling the galaxy is bound to dock on Nar Shaddaa at least once. You want to watch yourself while you're here, though. Nar Shaddaa isn't the galaxy's most infinite shadow port for nothing. This moon's practically thrumming with activity. It's got 85 billion people scattered across it, spread from the highest skyscrapers to the darkest depths of the vertical city. Nar Shaddaa is like a Coruscant in that it's not just completely covered by urban zones, but that city districts are stacked on top of each other in hundreds of levels. But Nar Shaddaa's no Coruscant. A lot of Coruscant is nice, or at least decent. You only have to watch yourself if you go down into the underworld. But Nar Shaddaa is all underworld. It's one big, lawless, polluted slum. The poisoned commercial heart of Hutt space. And if you're going to spend any time at all here, you'd better know what you're getting into. As I'm sure you noticed on your way down, Nar Shaddaa is one of the most chaotic places in the galaxy. There's not much in the way of central government here. The Hutts own the moon, but they ignore most of it, leaving the people of Nar Shaddaa to their own devices. As a result, Nar Shaddaa is chaotic from top to bottom. The space lanes above are mostly unregulated and are a notorious mess. Many landing platforms or docks are abandoned or only unofficially managed, and every single sector is packed full of people, visitors, and locals alike. For that reason, Nar Shaddaa is one of the best places in the galaxy to get lost and lay low for a while. It's virtually impossible to find anyone on the moon's surface. People go to Nar Shaddaa to reinvent themselves all the time, taking up new names and identities to lose pursuers or put their past behind them. You can even hide out in the space lanes. Numerous crime lords have run their operations from spacecraft in orbit of Nar Shaddaa, using basic cloaking devices to mask their sensor outputs while they weave through the traffic. The city itself is a mess as well. The lack of regulation means that there's pretty much no zoning or central urban planning. The entire moon is a three-dimensional maze, thoroughly polluted and run down. You've got grand plazas surrounded by labyrinths of narrow alleys, towering skyscrapers, and kilometers-deep urban canyons, housing districts and cantinas right next door to industrial plants. Some places are designed confusingly on purpose, and in the most crime-ridden parts of Nar Shaddaa, some streets are intentionally mislabeled to lure off-worlders into traps. The verticality of Nar Shaddaa makes this worse. Unlike on Coruscant, the city levels on Nar Shaddaa are thoroughly interconnected. Instead of being divided into level-based neighborhoods, Nar Shaddaa is divided into sectors that cover swaths of the moon, with all the levels in a sector being more or less the same. The lower you go, the hotter and more polluted it is, but the highest levels are just as poor as the lowest ones, for the most part. A lot of Nar Shaddaa is industrial in nature, but Nar Shaddaa is most well known for its many urban zones. 85 billion people is a lot for such a small moon, and on top of that, Nar Shadda's population is one of the most diverse in the galaxy, with virtually every sentient species represented here. And unlike on nearly every other city planet in the galaxy, humans are a minority on Nar Shaddaa, if a decently large one. Most species on Nar Shaddaa have their own diaspora communities here, the largest of which have their own districts. These districts can vary pretty wildly in terms of wealth and status. While most of Nar Shaddaa is poor and run down, some parts are poorer than others. There are a few well-off districts that are decently nice to live in, though these are still full of crime. The Corellian sector is the most well-known of these. The neighboring Duros sector is a close second. Back during the Sith Wars, the Duros sector was poor as hell, populated mostly by refugees, but for the past few centuries, the Trade Federation's poured a lot of money into it, and it's become one of the better neighborhoods since. There's also New Vertica, which, after a rebellion a few centuries ago, is formally independent of Hutt rule, though they pay regular tribute to Nal Hutta to stay that way. Some city sectors are even poorer and more run down than most of the moon. Kohen Tota is one of the more well-known ones, but perhaps the poorest of all is the refugee sector, located on the far side of the moon. The refugee sector is a filthy ruin, full of the stench of decay and desperate living, and as you might guess from the name, it's full of refugees. You see, whenever there's a war in the galaxy and people get displaced, a lot of them always end up on Nar Shaddaa. There's a few reasons for that. A lot of space lanes lead here, so it's easy to get to, and since it's in Hutt space, it's generally isolated from whatever conflict is making people flee. Some refugees come to Nar Shaddaa hoping for a better life, only to wind up herded into the refugee sector, from which there's pretty much no escape. There, people live in shipping containers or out in the streets in an ancient, abandoned port district, most of them just barely scraping by. The neighboring districts maintain tight borders to keep the refugees penned in, and the Hutts and the other criminal factions regularly harass the refugees, taking them as slaves or coercing them into doing manual labor for a pittance. Believe it or not, the sector actually used to be a lot worse than it is today. If you know where to look, there are even hidden gems in the refugee sector. Legitimate industries and businesses run by the descendants of former refugees that achieved some measure of success. The refugees have their own community support networks as well, which keeps people from starving, but apart from the refugees themselves, the only people in the sector are off-worlders, trying to hide by posing as refugees, or the hirelings of the local crime lords. It's not a pleasant place, to say the least. But Nar Shaddaa wasn't always this way. Nar Shaddaa, as you surely know, is the moon of Nal Hutta, the Hutt's capital and adopted homeworld. They relocated to that bloated swamp 15,000 years ago, after their original homeworld was destroyed in a cataclysm. Nal Hutta, which was called Evakar then, had its own indigenous sentience, the Evakai, but the Hutts took their land and relocated them here, to the planet's largest moon. They put the Evakai to work, turning this moon into a massive city world to rival Coruscant, and when the city was complete, they drove the Evakai into the Undercity, where they died out long ago. For thousands of years, Nar Shaddaa was a mostly legitimate trading port. Back then, it was the end point of the Utmian Pabal, which used to be the most used hyperspace route between the Republic and Hutt space, and this meant that Nar Shaddaa grew pretty rich off trade with the Republic. Nar Shaddaa was the Hutt's big showplace, their public capital, while Nal Hutta was more exclusive, reserved for the Hutts and their guests. But about 4,000 years ago, the Utmian Pabal was severed by the Kyr supernova, and things changed for Nar Shaddaa. Legitimate traders heading into Hutt space wound up going to other ports, and Nar Shaddaa rapidly decayed. Within just a few decades, it had settled into a new role as the galaxy's premier shadow port, the Smuggler's Moon. The Utmian Pabal's since been re-established, but the change has been permanent, since no legitimate trader wants to do business here anymore. So, Nar Shaddaa remains, and likely will forever remain, the galaxy's most wretched hive of scum and villainy. But there's more to Nar Shaddaa than crime. Spacers don't stop here every time they're in Hutt space just to get mugged. It's a well-known fact that Nar Shaddaa has some of the best entertainment, legal and otherwise, in the entire galaxy. Every sector on the moon has at least a few popular cantinas, casinos and/or brothels. Even the refugee sector's got a swoop track and a full-fledged entertainment promenade with a cantina and a Pazak den. 3 of Nar Shaddaa's cantinas, the Burning Deck, the Slag Pit and the Meltdown Cafe, are especially popular with bounty hunters. Other popular establishments include the Orange Lady, the Rimmer's Rest, the Star Cluster Casino, and Club Vertica Casino. Not to mention that Nar Shaddaa has entire entertainment districts. The most wealthy sector of the moon is the Promenade, located on Nar Shaddaa's near side. This district is the Hutt's big showplace, a vibrant commercial sector that, unlike the rest of the moon, is kept mostly safe by Hutt enforcers. There's also the much seedier and much more raunchy Red Light sector. Red sector isn't a dedicated entertainment district, and parts of it are slums, but the sector is notoriously packed full of entertainment, most of it illegal, plus a few semi-legit casinos, but Red sector caters to those with illicit tastes. It's packed with brothels, spice dens, body mod shops, slave markets, and much, much worse. And most of the business owners there have ties to criminal gangs. Now, keep in mind that not all establishments on Nar Shaddaa are human-friendly. This is pretty much the only major port where humans are a small minority, so aliens that really, really hate humans tend to congregate here, where they can marginalize humans to their heart's content. There's a bunch of establishments here that cater to these types, chief among them the Jekk'Jekk in the refugee sector. The Jekk'Jekk is a bar of sorts, built in the tunnels under the sector docks. It's not an ordinary bar though, it's full of cyanogen gas. In humans and a number of other species, cyanogen gas metabolizes to cyanide in the body, and it can kill both through inhalation and skin contact. In a lot of other species though, cyanogen is an intoxicant. Non-humans of all kinds go to the Jekk'Jekk to get drunk on the fumes, and cyanogen's effects on humans has the added benefit of keeping our kind out. The Jekk'Jekk is also a notorious criminal haunt. There's a whole fortress beneath it, built thousands of years ago by Visquise, a local boss of the Exchange. The Exchange used to be very powerful on Nar Shaddaa back during the Sith Wars, despite the fact that they were in constant competition with the Hutts. At one point, the Nar Shaddaa Exchange was led by a boss named Goto, who had droid spies all over the moon, which he used to locate and hijack cargo ships belonging to Vogga the Hutt, one of the Hutt cartel's leaders at the time. Goto drove Vogga up a wall until a bunch of bounty hunters he double-crossed blew up his yacht in orbit, after which the Exchange never really recovered. But plenty of other criminal groups have moved in to fill the void. Naturally, Nar Shaddaa's full of Hutt cartel enterprises, but virtually every criminal underworld faction worth its spice has a presence on the Smuggler's moon, whether they're Black Sun or a smaller outfit. There are a ton of local gangs too. The Bleeders are a particularly nasty one, a band of organ harvesters operating out of the Red Sector, kidnapping travelers and selling their guts on the black market. There's also plenty of slavers. Some, like Red Eclipse, are freelance, while some work directly for the Hutts. The Bisadi clan in particular has a bunch of Talander Till street preachers that they use to lure people into slavery on Elysia, one of the most nightmarish of the Hutt spice worlds. But some of the worst abuses on Nar Shaddaa are actually the work of legitimate enterprises. The lowest levels of most sectors are dominated by manufacturing and even mining, and there are a few sectors like the aptly named industrial sector that are completely given over to industry. Nar Shaddaa's industrial areas are run down but quite profitable, and corporations from all over the galaxy manufacture stuff here, taking advantage of the planet's cheap and abundant labor pool, as well as complete lack of regulation. In fact, a lot of the galaxy's most cutting-edge tech is made here, in the lower levels of the city, where corporations can avoid Republic scrutiny and do as much unethical testing as they want. They've polluted some of the lower areas so badly that the people living there have become mindless mutants, like in the Undercity of Coruscant. It just goes to show, even on Nar Shaddaa, the most dangerous scum are the legitimate ones. Well, I should be going. I've got a shipment to catch on Cassell. I'll be back here once I've picked it up though, so if you're sticking around, you'll probably see me real soon. Enjoy your time on Nar Shaddaa, and try to stay safe out there.